164,000 people voted over the weekend as the poll sites open for day 3 of early voting. Let's take a look.
So far, more than 160,000 ballots of boroughs.
Yeah, New York City's mayoral race, surely one of the highest profile races in the country this election season. Pundits, politicians, for the president down, all trying to influence how New Yorkers vote.
And there's still 8 days to go until Election Day, so still some time to sway voters those candidates are hoping for. And still, you, New Yorkers, still have to make your voices heard. So Eyewitness News reporter Crystal Cranmore is live for us at City Hall with each of the candidates and their agendas for today. Good morning, Crystal.
Good morning. Well, it's actually expected to be a busy week ahead as the candidates work to appeal those voters who are still undecided. But those who do know actually locked in their votes just a short while ago here at the Borough of Manhattan Community College. Take a look inside. This is how it looked when polls opened around 9 o'clock this morning. This is the third day of early voting after Elections Day. There was a large turnout this weekend. Now, the candidates pulled out all the stops to secure the votes they needed. This was a rally for Assemblyman Zohran in Queens, Forest Hill Stadium in Queens last night, where about 10,000 people were in attendance. Senator Bernie Sanders and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and other key Democratic forces in New York got on stage and championed Mamdani. Meanwhile, Republican Curtis Sliwa spent Sunday visiting a Sikh temple in South Richmond Hill. He vowed to stay in the race despite growing calls for him to drop out. Now, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who was running as an independent, was with the Jewish community at the Kew Gardens Hills Library. More than 300 people attended that event. Now, Cuomo and mayoral frontrunner Mamdani have been clashing over questions about support for the Jewish community and allegations of Islamophobia introduced into the race. We talked to voters who tuned out the noise and locked in their decisions early.
Got to focus on the facts, and the fact is, to run New York City, you got to be able to run a business. And as a small business owner, it really feels necessary to have some business experience to run the city of New York.
I'm excited. I think the whole world is watching this election, and I'm a proud New York voter. I think it's an election about change, bringing in a new generation of leadership, and pushing back to give working families a chance in the city.
And the candidates are back on the campaign trail today. Zohran Mamdani is expected to meet with voters at a polling site on the Upper East Side at noon. Meanwhile, Curtis Sliwa is expected to be at a rally on Staten Island.
I think the fact that the Democratic machine is not actively stamping out Andrew Cuomo's viability by consistently running he claims to be a Democrat, but he's working to be a spoiler, is actually unimaginably bankrupt. Like, it is so crazy that the establishment Democrats are not united behind Zohran and actively trying to cut away at the machine that Andrew Cuomo still is utilizing with his name recognition, with his experience in New York politics at the state level. The very fact that every single Democratic New York politician isn't severing that tie is yet another glaringly obvious example that they too see not just Zohran, but this movement as a serious threat. They see the success of this movement as a serious threat. They see this people-backed candidacy. They see this people-backed candidacy as overthrowing the elite capture within the Democratic Party, because God forbid Zohran is successful. God forbid other openly socialist candidates are successful elsewhere. Then all of a sudden, all of their lobbyist funds and all of their corporate capture will dry up. This is why it's extra important to consistently get people on board no matter what. You think so? I mean, yeah, 26 billionaires have poured over $22 million into stopping Zohran Mamdani's campaign for New York City mayor. Bloomberg, Ackman, Walton, Wynn, Lauder. The list reads like a billionaire panic roll call. They're not donating out of civic duty. They're defending a system that's finally being challenged. So this is perhaps one of the most consequential moments where every single person, instead of like putting the crosshairs on their viable allies should suck it up and try to fight back, because this is not a given. It's not a given. It's not over, and it won't be over even when Zohran wins. Okay, and yeah, here are some scary numbers to look at if you want to light the fire under your ass. Cuomo has cut Mamdani's lead to 10 points. Suffolk poll of New York City voters. Now, it's not the best poll. I believe it's like 500 people, but Suffolk poll of New York City voters, 1023 to 1026. September poll in parentheses. Before this is before the Eric Adams endorsement, show Mamdani going from 44 to 45, but Cuomo going from 34 to 25. Wait, what? Or sorry. 45 to 44, dipping in 1 point. And Cuomo going from 25 to 34. Sliwa going from 9 to 11. Okay. Sliwa's second choice shows 36% at Cuomo and Mamdani at 2%. Now, the thing is, from what I understand, I've been reading a little bit about what Adam Carlson has been talking about as a pollster. They are one of the biggest problems with polling in general is that they're too reliant on previous voter patterns in order to develop projections, right? And even when they're actually adjusting for who goes out to vote. Now, when they do that, it's very difficult for them to put together an adequate sampling size or adequate weight on certain groups. One of the most famous examples of this is the Muslim vote in New York City. The Muslim vote in New York City has been historically underpolled because they've been historically underrepresented. And the suspicion is that a big part of the reason why the polls underestimated Zohran's success in the primaries was because they had not weighed the mobilization from Muslim communities within New York. Even with the limited amount of organizational tools that they had, even though it was a crazy door-knocking operation, the limited amount of name recognition that this candidacy had, as opposed to right now. So what Adam Carlson says about this poll is basically Cuomo picked up on most of Adams' previous 8% support in the Suffolk September poll, and undecideds inched down. But the closest margin, Mamdani plus 10 of any publicly released poll since August. If we look at the rest of the polls, Mamdani up 18, AARP showing Mamdani up 14, Fox showing Mamdani up 24, Quinnipiac showing Mamdani up 14, Suffolk showing Mamdani up 20, CBS showing Mamdani up 15, Marist showing Mamdani up 21, and Emerson showing Mamdani up 15. So we shall see. And New York Times has an aggregate of all the polls as well. Caroline Solar, polling researcher at the New York Times, says, as early voting begins and 1 week remaining until Election Day, Zohran Mamdani, Democratic candidate, maintains a double-digit lead over Andrew Cuomo. A new Suffolk University poll shows Mamdani ahead 44% to 34% with Curtis Sliwa, the Republican candidate, at 11%. That's down from a 20-point Mamdani lead in Suffolk's September survey. The tightening follows Eric Adams' decision to drop out and endorse Cuomo, who has tried in recent weeks to consolidate opposition to Mamdani by courting more conservative-leaning voters. Sliwa has refused calls to exit the race, and Mamdani has held a steady lead in October polls, even clearing 50% in the Beacon Research poll earlier this month. This is why they so aggressively tried. This is why they bought Eric Adams and made Eric Adams endorse Andrew Cuomo. And this is why they were so aggressively trying to get Curtis Sliwa to drop out. And the reason why they were trying to so aggressively get Curtis Sliwa to drop out is because, once again, it is literally hitting you in the face. Even modest social democracy is a life or death style threat for all of the Capitol owners and even establishment Democrats as well. How can you look at the situation where it's very clear that victory is within the crosshairs for someone who wants to move the needle in the left position by very little, that all of these people are screaming from the rooftops about what a danger this presents. And they are trying to channel all of that frustration. They are trying to do everything in their power to disparage this person by any means necessary. And there are still people who are like, nah, this is actually 100% a captured. This is a person who's trying to sedate the masses and make them comfortable with the Democratic Party so that, American workers are still invested in the bourgeois Democratic Party and will never actually have revolutionary feelings in their hearts. These are the polls of the New York City mayoral primary, including simulated ranked choice voters for the first and final rounds of voting. So just remember, there was only one poll that showed Mamdani up +5, and every other poll showed Cuomo with varying degrees of different leads. So all of them were wrong, but that doesn't mean that these polls are now weighing Mamdani's chances as much higher than before, because they do adjust quickly, right? Pollsters will oftentimes very quickly restructure how they are weighing certain demographics. Michael Lange says, my thoughts on the first 2 days of early voting: fear-mongering, Cuomo bump in wealthy Manhattan. Black and Hispanic turnout is low. Solid but unspectacular GOP turnout. Commie corridor starts slow, finishes strong. Brownstone BK, huge numbers for Z. More age-related thoughts: voters 55 plus are 51% of the electorate. Voters aged 25 to 34 are now 16% of the electorate. Plenty of older voters are Republicans. Sliwa's best demo is 65 plus whites. Gen X and boomers are ahead, but Cuomo needs more. Age data means little without districts. Emil Habibi, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Do you think Zohran would be cooked if Sliwa dropped a long time ago? I wouldn't say he'd be cooked, but he would have a much tougher go at it, I think. Because once again, this is what happened to Bernie as well in the primary. But this time they failed in the primary because they underestimated Zohran. But now they're doing it in the general. You have to understand, like, the struggle will continue even after the electoral victory, because the same interests that actively are trying to stop this, before the election takes place, are not going to just sit quietly and idly and wait for Zohran to become a successful mayor. They will him every step of the way. They are going to undermine him because these people have no investment in the betterment of people's material conditions. They are playing a game of domination. They want to make sure that you do not have hope. They want to cut this before it becomes a larger problem. The bigger the win for Zohran, the more Democrats are likely to fall in line. If this is closer than expected, it's not good for Zohran's term. We need a massive turnout. We need him to get it over the 50% mark, make it a blowout. Exactly. I think shows of strength, such as last night's events, is very good, because then the Democratic Party's elite see the momentum and the mobilization, the capabilities that a left flank candidate has. It makes it impossible to deny. It makes it unavoidable. It makes it a reality. Okay? We can't leave this stuff up to luck. Clearly, when, let's really be honest, Mamdani wins the election and takes office, Trump will immediately send in federal agents and the National Guard to ostensibly combat crime/immigration and spend every day trying to provoke New Yorkers into unrest. This is in addition to the billions of federal money he's already pledged to cut off. And I believe their threats of deporting Mamdani are very real and should be taken seriously. Cuomo and his donors constantly make not-so-veiled threats premised on these dynamics. What would be useful is if our media explained this motivation and strategy of tension while reporting on this inevitable crackdown and provocation, rather than running with Trump's completely nominal aim of fighting crime or legal immigration. This will not likely happen, of course. One recent template is Trump's bogus claims to be taken on narco-terrorists and drug cartels while he attempts to provoke Venezuela into a regime change war. A drugs framing everyone from the New York Times to the Atlantic accepts and runs with, despite its obvious fakery. Fox's TikTok comment section is pro-Zohran.
As we stand on the precipice of taking this city back from corrupt politicians and the billionaires that fund them, let our words ring out so loud tonight that Andrew Cuomo can hear them in his $8,000 a month apartment. Let them ring so loud so that he can hear us even if he's in Westchester this evening. Let them ring so loud that his puppet master in the White House hears us. New York is not for sale. And now, as we stand...
So that was posted on the Fox News TikTok. Now let's look at the comments on Fox News TikTok. Fox posting this like it's supposed to make me stop liking him. Can we change the rules so we can run for president, please? I'm so jealous of New York right now. Fox posting is the rage bait Cuomo. Free New York from APAC. Look at the people behind him. All Muslims. We are in trouble. The name is Mamdani. His decency brought back enthusiasm to the election. One comment that's negative and weirdly suspecting that the Sikh people behind him are Muslim, you know, racialized Islamophobia as always. And then the rest are like, can he be president, please? Zohran's team also came out with a Fox News ad, and I think that's pretty brilliant. My radical, in air quotes, agenda. Let's take a look at that.
He is a communist.
Hey, I'm the actual Zohran Mamdani, not the guy they talk about on this channel. My radical agenda? Turn the page on the billionaire-backed politics of Andrew Cuomo. Make the city affordable. Tackle government waste. Keep New York safe. And deliver on our promises. With universal childcare, rent that you can afford, and a property tax system that actually makes sense. So don't be fooled by the noise. This is who I am, and you're who I'm fighting for.
Paid for by Zohran for NYC.
He also has a decent amount of money as well. And I think that when you pair up good policies and you can bankroll said good policies with a broad media campaign, something that Kamala Harris failed to do because she did not have the good policies. She did have the fat purse, right? I think you can overcome these odds. Don't get false optimism laws. TikTok, I always see liberal comments, even on Fox. I know. I'm just pointing to the fact that Fox News' message is supposed to resonate with Fox News TikTok watchers. There's plenty of right-wingers on TikTok. Squirrel made a decent comment on Islamophobia. I suspect that they're saying the same thing that I've been saying, which is that Israel defenders and Israel in general realize that they can't actually win people back to loving Israel. But what they can do is disparage Muslims. They can really tweak the dial on Islamophobia and therefore make people fearful of Muslims and then make it seem as though, you know, Israel is fighting against Muslims. Like, I don't really like Israel, but I guess they're fighting Muslims and I hate Muslims. That's it. Elon Musk has recently turned on the Zionism dial on the algorithm to the max for his daddy Netanyahu. This post was immediately targeted by Zionist Israeli boss and troll farms, and they've been posting the same script nonstop since. It's instructive to look at what they all say. Two main repeating lines, aside from the typical classic Hasbro bull about how Palestinians are intrinsically violent and subhuman, is the obsessive focus on immigration and Muslims. That's the new strategy. We're going to do a war on terror 2.0 Hasbro operation in the U.S. and West and just ramp up the most insane, deranged Islamophobic racist bile imaginable. That will make them forget about our genocidal mass slaughter and rape of Palestinian babies, toddlers, children, girls, boys, and women. Creating huge, vast, fake AI-run accounts that mimic real people, preferably women and minorities, so we can pretend we have deep organic support among broad swaths of the population, and then give them all the same script to repeat everywhere on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and of course TikTok that they now directly own. OMG, Muslim Islamic invasion. OMG, Muslims. OMG, invasion by Browns. The jihadi Browns Muslims are invading you. Oh my God. Oh my God. There has never been more disgusting, depraved, shameless creature than the genocidal Zionist. Former U.S. envoy to combat anti-Semitism, Eli Kohanim, says, never forget, early voting begins today. Vote Andrew Cuomo and save our city. I mean, this is insane, right? Anyone flippantly posting images like this for clout is a fool. Everyone I know lost someone that day. I still have nightmares about what I saw. Nearly 50,000 first responders and others now suffer from 9/11 linked cancers. Our pain isn't your cannon fodder because only Zohran Mamdani has the right to evoke 9/11. You know, his aunt got mean looks on the subway. What's ghoulish is the people who would vote for a guy who campaigns with the unindicted World Trade Center co-conspirator anywhere near City Hall who seem to have forgotten 9/11. Like, this is such a psychotic reaction to a guy who has nothing to do with 9/11, obviously, duh, but happens to be Muslim. He was an 8-year-old Muslim boy in New York when 9/11 happened. He too also suffered the trauma, as many New Yorkers did. It's insane that they would turn around and make it seem as though he is responsible for 9/11 or will do another 9/11. How is this not political suicide? Because you can get away with being as you want to Muslims in general. I know you meant this to be racist against Mamdani, but this most likely reads like vote Cuomo or else we'll do another 9/11. Matt Lieb. Boomers still want to hold on to 9/11 like Gen Z and the younger generation don't give a fuck about it at all. It happened 24 years ago. It's like them wanting us to cry over the Titanic. Yeah, but that's besides the point because boomers still are a viable voting bloc. You and Zohran were 10 on 9/11, not 8. Okay, my bad. 10. 10 years old, okay? Jesus Christ. What difference does it make? Oh, 10, that changes everything. Okay. What's also making me go crazy is that Zohran has said nothing even remotely anti-Semitic, nothing that you can even remotely call into question as being anti-Semitic, and yet they keep saying he's anti-Semitic because he's Muslim and also anti-Zionist. All right? Meanwhile, Andrew Cuomo is unimaginably racist, unimaginably Islamophobic, and yet no one turns around and goes, hey, man, what the f*** are you doing? No one calls into question that the city with the largest number of Muslim voters, right? And the guy running for mayor is directly calling harm upon 1 out of every 8 New Yorkers who happen to be Muslim. Zohran hasn't said anything anti-Semitic, and yet they write a million think pieces about how him being, brown is very scary for the Jews in New York, even though the Jews in New York are basically 50-50 split down the line with 2/3 under the age of 35 voting for Zohran, right? It is utter lunacy, man. It is utter lunacy. I hate it. Anyway, let's look at Morning Joe. Morning Joe has fallen. Joe Scarborough bends the knee to Mamdani.
Mamdani, there I did it right, and they've been Bernie Sanders. And what do they have in common? They have a populist message, and yes, people can say, oh, they're socialists, they're socialists, they're socialists. Yeah, they said that about Barack Obama, too, and he kicked Republicans' ass twice. So it's that populist message that they're putting out there that even there are times that even Steve Bannon goes, yeah, what AOC's saying there, I agree with. And a lot of people, like in the populist wing of the MAGA party, agree with a lot of that stuff, too. Same thing with Lisa Khan and what she was doing about breaking up monopolies. There is a lane for populist Democrats.
How'd you f up Lena Khan's name? He's like, well, I got one of the brown people's names right. Also, it's not even like an exotic name. You know what I mean? It's Lena, not Lisa. That's so funny. God damn. This guy is supposed to be like, this guy's been in the media for so many decades, bro. He's been a fixture of political commentary for as long as some of these chatters have been alive. And he's still up these names. He's got like 30 different producers in his ear and shit. How do you mess this up?
Democrats to run in and to win.
Anyway, whatever. It's fine. Oh, this was really funny and also unironically anti-Semitic. Every time I hear Mamdani's anti-Semitic base shouting tax the rich, what I really hear is they're saying tax the Jews. They are obsessed with bashing Israel and wealthy Jewish New Yorkers like Bill Ackman. Connect the dots. Yeah, they want to implement jizya, but just for Jews in New York. They want to do Jewsya. Governor Kathy Hochul, going along with this is repulsive, and having Jewish Bernie there for cover redefines the phrase useful idiots. This whole thing really gives me the creeps. Just vote Andrew Cuomo tomorrow if you haven't done so already. Let's send the message that hate has no place in New York. This is one of Cuomo's closest advisors, by the way. It doesn't surprise me. It's really interesting to see people not get that the whole point of tax the rich chant is to disguise an anti-Semitic trope. No, when people say we must abolish billionaires, if you automatically go, no, you're actually being anti-Semitic. Ironically enough, you're the one who's doing the anti-Semitism. When people say tax the rich, that means tax the rich. Okay. That is so stupid. This is like anti-Semitism is the socialism of fools, but reversed. Okay. Socialism is the real anti-Semitism. That's awesome. This woman is Catholic, bro. Of course. How the fuck They just now forgetting this out. You were screaming at them the whole election cycle to run a populist message. We wouldn't have gotten Trump if they had listened to the broad political will. Now we have a fascist regime, and who knows if they'll leave power. Yeah. Maria Dancillo is 100% correct. I'm reading Raoul Hilberg's The Destruction of the European Jews, widely considered to be one of the definitive examinations of the Holocaust. In his book, Hilberg confirms that Tax the Rich was the main slogan screamed by rampaging Nazi mobs on Kristallnacht. In the tome's most important revelation, Hilberg also explains that the correct translation of Arbeit macht frei is in fact tax the rich. Okay. Moen is being silly and sarcastic, but I don't think people take that. I think people don't have the capacity to understand sarcasm because they are hysterical. Anyway, in the past, Governor Hochul has called raising most taxes, even on the wealthy, a hard no. She softened the stance today, saying, I have a lot of calculations to do, Hochul says. There's a lot of popular phrases out there, but I'm open to trying to help people who are struggling. Update, Jane Goodman, a spokesperson for Hochul, says the governor's position has not changed. She's not open to raising income taxes, Goodman said in a text. Now, the reason why she's actually softening her position, for the record, is because she went out there. She knows she needs the Zomentum. She knows she needs the DSA. She knows that Zohran has captured the attention of many New Yorkers. And for her reelection, she's going to need those voters. So she came out last night. She came out last night and spoke in front of the crowd. And the crowd wasn't necessarily booing her, but you're scarily chill this stream. Yeah, because once again, I was out there with my people. I was out there with you. That's why. That's why I'm chill, because I was reminded once again that a lot of the background noise on the internet might make it seem like it's the only true narrative that you hear. But in fact, most people in the fucking real world are not worried about any of the dumb, nonsensical drama or any other shit. They just want their lives to improve, and they want to hold on to a glimmer of hope. And this campaign represents that for them. They're not going, well, Zohran has retriangulated his position away from avowed anti-Zionism, and therefore he has betrayed the revolutionary sentiment or whatever. Like, they're not doing that. They're just going, hey, man, this is cool. We finally have a semblance of hope here. Open Presents, thank you for the 100 bones. But that's why I'm chill. Every time I touch grass, every time I touch grass, every time I'm surrounded by people in the real world, I am reminded that a lot of the stuff online is so algorithmically boosted. It recenters my focus. It helps me. It revitalizes me. It emboldens me. It helps me remember that this kind of message is moving across generations, and it can lead to productive mobilization, organizing that's productive. Anyway, here's crowds chanting, tax the rich, as New York Governor Hochul spoke at the New York is not for sale rally last night. Also, look at this crowd, by the way. They were trying to say, like, oh, there's all white guys in the crowd. It's all white men. First of all, figure it out. Is it a good thing or a bad thing that there's white men in the movement? Okay? Because I thought the Democrats had moved past that point where they were like, how do we get the white men? Now they're like, actually, it's there's too many white men in this crowd. It's not diverse. It's not diverse. You know, this is a very diverse crowd because New York is a very diverse city. I was there. I am black. I was chanting with them. Yeah. I mean, we saw the Hasan Abihez out there, incredibly diverse. It wasn't all corked up white boys in the way that many people say it is. In the way that many people in this community sometimes say it is, you know? It's just not. It's not like that at all. Yeah, I know. Melissa DeRosa, another Cuomo acolyte, said, in a crowd that includes Hasan Piker, Jeff Colton was there filming, says, the crowd chants at Hochul, not with Hochul, tax the rich, tax the rich. Then Hochul turns around and says, I hear you, Hochul says after several rounds of tax the rich. I love to see this energy and the passion. Mamdani comes out on stage for the first time tonight to hug her and raise arms in triumph with her. He literally had to come out and get the people not to yell at her. When you're faced with that kind of support for a key policy, when you are faced with that, it's quite difficult for you to deny that there is momentum coming directly from the masses in this direction. Okay? Yeah, look, what a year. This is how it started, and this has happened in just a year. Things can move so rapidly. Okay? You never know. This is why, I mean, it's falsely attributed to Lenin, but you know, there are decades where nothing happens, and then there are weeks where decades happen. You help with this? I didn't help with this. You did. You all did. I'm one person. I'm nothing. Without all of you that are not only tuning in, but then also going outside and knocking on doors, okay? I'm just one guy chirping. I'm just one guy chirping in the wind. That's it. Because of you, I traveled from Germany to go canvas for Zohran. Hell yeah. Not true. You open people's eyes, including mine. I know, but if you, remember, if you weren't charitable, if you weren't open-minded, if you didn't go on your own journey, okay, of self-reflection and self-criticism and change your attitude, and then on top of that, decide to mobilize, this wouldn't work. That's it. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. Without you, I am irrelevant. Okay? And without all of you, Zohran is also irrelevant. Everyone plays a role here. Yeah. Jeff Colton, Hasan Piker entered through the media entrance and wore a media sticker the whole time. We know that because he live streamed the whole thing. Hopefully other campaigns would also let him in under similar circumstances. NWS, this guy, not even a fan of mine, okay, not even a follower, says, imagine telling Andrew Cuomo at the peak of his 2020 COVID press conference hype that in 5 years he'd be making a desperate attempt to save his failed campaign by focusing his closing message on his opponent's association with a Twitch streamer. That's how stupid it is. And sometimes we get swept away by narratives that people in positions of prominence really try to focus on, really dial in on. But it is crazy. It's also crazy because, like, back then, I was wearing, ironically, the Cuomo Fauci hat all the time, talking about how stupid it is that Democrats were fantasizing about Andrew Cuomo. If you recall, if you were back here in 2020, I would routinely make jokes about how much liberals talked about Andrew Cuomo. Back then, I was still ripping into Andrew Cuomo for playing a formative role in crippling the New York City health infrastructure, the New York State health infrastructure, by offering goodies to his Republican allies in Albany so that he can maintain his grip of power, and how much that led to the demise of New Yorkers during COVID. I was saying it back then too. And it's crazy that, like, now virtually every New Yorker is aware of this, regardless of how they felt about Andrew Cuomo back then. Yeah, the Cuomo-sexuals, if you remember. Really dumb question, but why is Cuomo running in the first place? What does he stand to gain? He wants to restart his failed political career, and he thought he could do so by running for a less powerful position. That's it. He wants to regain the confidence of the New York political machine. New Yorkers in the know have always shit on Andrew Cuomo for everything that he's done, using the power of the governor's office to basically destroy its left flank, to solidify New York as an establishment Democratic stronghold. Yeah, here it is. Here's my Cuomo Fauci 2020 hat. Of course, I was wearing it ironically while making fun of Cuomo, but do you still have it? Yeah, I do. This is Muslim terror. Deport them all. Like, this is what I mean. 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 Like, Randy Fine is a congressperson. No censures demanded, and no censure will ever come for him when he says that about 40,000 American citizens. Can you imagine if there was like not even a pro-Israel rally, but like a Jewish a Jewish day, right? where you had a bunch of Jewish Americans that were doing a parade or something, okay? Not a pro-Israel parade, just a Jewish one, right? And then Ilhan Omar was like, we got to get these Jews out of here. That would obviously never happen because she's not an anti-Semitic person, contrary to how they try to present her. But it's nutty. It's nutty how much you can get away with. When you say shit like this, you can just say shit like this all the time. All the time. And it's perfectly, it's considered perfectly fine. Look at his bio. Husband and father proudly serve in Florida's 6th Congressional District. Pronouns Hebrew/Hammer. Yeah, his blood pressure is not so fine. I know. This is Randy Fine, for those of you who don't know. Has any Republican ever disavowed Randy Fine? No, of course not. Has there ever even been calls to disavow Randy Fine for what Randy Fine is saying every single day? No. It's the same double standard. David Bernstein. He's also good friends with, going back to the Jeff Colton tweet, who said, Hasan Piker entered through the media entrance and wore a media sticker the whole time. We know that because he live streamed the whole thing. Hopefully other campaigns would also let him in under similar circumstances. David Bernstein, he's also good friends with and a strong supporter of Mamdani, and the latter hasn't taken the slightest move to distance himself from this anti-Semitic, America-hating leftist. Once again, if I hated America, I wouldn't live here. I have the opportunity to live wherever the I want. Okay? And I am definitely not anti-Semitic. I'm fine with Hasan, but the fat phobia is mad annoying. Wait, what? Fat phobia? Oh, because I showed Randy Fine? Come on, chatter. You're drawing that conclusion on your own. I didn't even say it. Sometimes I do, but goddamn. Yeah, wait until he finds out he was also the DNC. Is he going to call out AOC and Bernie Sanders for appearing with Hasan as well? Is his only concern the Muslim who's beating his ass? I could have swore I saw Hasan Piker on the stream from DNC last summer. Jeff, the extent to which you carry water for the Mamdani campaign is pretty remarkable. Incredible stuff. So yeah, if you're wondering why Kathy Hochul, this was Kathy Hochul's response, by the way. She claimed she didn't know what the crowd was chanting last night. They were saying, "Let's go Bills."
I thought they were saying, "Let's go Bills." I wasn't sure. When you're up there, I heard some noise. I heard a lot of cheers. But later on, it became clear to me that I know there's passion for that. I mean, I went in there as the leader of the Democratic Party, whose job it is to unify behind the Democratic nominee. I love the energy out there. I told them that. And I want to do is bottle all that up, use it in a few days, but take that to Long Island and the Hudson Valley and make it.
Dude, Democrats have a little bit of an authenticity problem, just a little bit. Perhaps it's because they're so busy trying to destroy a candidate that is seen as authentic.